Live with CDP Sports Talk, a weekly sports and entertainment podcast sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet. Live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn. And on audio via Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Anchor FM, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Radio Public, and TuneIn. Now, here's your host, Chris Palme.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Season 8, Episode 16, Overall 402 of Live with CDP Sports Talk, sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out barrycullen.com for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, or give them a call at 519-824-0210, or email them at info@barrycullen.com. Live with CDP Sports Talk is on weeknights from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern on radio station WQEE 99.1 FM in Noonan, Georgia, the home of Southern Talk and Sports. I hope everyone's doing well on this Monday, June 3rd, 2024. I apologize for being on a little bit late, a little technical issues there. Hopefully they've been straightened out. Before we get to my guest today, just some NFL news with the passing of former Dallas Cowboys offensive lineman Larry Allen, who passed away recently at the age of 53. And also today, one of my buddies and one of the most famous dogs out there, Buddy Mercury, passed away on Saturday morning from heart failure. My condolences to Glenn and Lori Wolf, who adopted Buddy 9 years ago. And Buddy was well known for his piano playing as a beagle and his howling as well. So it's really sad news about Buddy Mercury, and it's hard to lose a pet. It's like losing your best friend. And again, deepest sympathies to the Wolf family and also to the Dallas Cowboys and Larry Allen's family and friends as well. I'm excited to have my guest on tonight. This is going to be her first appearance on Live with CDP Sports Talk. I met her through TikTok, and her name is Mariah, just like Mariah Carey, Mariah Perry. She's the author of her own book called Green Eyes and has years of experience in the mental health section and has a bachelor's degree in psychology. And I'm excited to bring on my guest, Mariah Perry, who is originally, I believe, from Texas and now in Los Angeles. We're going to bring Mariah on right now. Good evening. How are you? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I'm just not sure if my screen is loading.
Okay. We're still getting that background. Is it possible you could take? Are you using the iPods for your ears?
No, I'm not.
No. Okay. We'll just have to do our best with this audio.
Okay.
How are you doing?
I'm well. How about yourself?
Not too bad. I can't believe it's already June.
Yes, I feel like this year went by really fast.
It's going real quick. It's almost half over.
Yeah, we're at the halfway point.
So we'll get into some questions. My show is just outside of Toronto. Can you tell my audience a little bit about yourself?
Yes, so as Chris mentioned, my name is Mariah Perry. I'm originally from Sacramento, California, NorCal area, and I recently moved to SoCal to pursue my master's. I have a background in mental health work. I started out with a lot of volunteer work, and I moved up to crisis counseling with a lot of nonprofit organizations and also community wellness sectors. And during that time, I decided to pursue my bachelor's in psychology at California State University, Sacramento, and the institution's informal name, we call it Sac State or Sacramento State for short. And I went through probably about a little bit over a year after graduating with my bachelor's of just doing some more community and mental health work, more so with the youth, promoting youth mental health wellness. And after that, I decided to pursue higher education. And while pursuing higher education, that's actually when I started to take the writing that I would do just as a hobby and start to publish my own books. So that's just a brief background of who I am and what I've been doing for the past few years.
How important
It cut out. How important is
education?
Education, I would say, ooh, to me, it was important. But I will say this, I'm also, I'm adamant about the fact that education is subjective. You can learn from reading books, you can learn from your community, just being open to other people's experiences and broadening your own scope. So for me, education, if we're talking from that perspective, is super important. As long as you're just putting yourself out there and not being so consumed in your own bubble. I strongly encourage people to always get connected and to learn about different experiences, about different backgrounds, different cultures. I would say education is super important.
Mariah, how much of an impact did the pandemic have on mental health in your country specifically? And do you find it has increased since after the pandemic?
Mm. You know what? Mental health, it declined for a lot of people during the pandemic, especially individuals who felt like they were, I guess, robbed of a lot of social interactions. I know I had a loved one say that they felt like they were losing their mind because of the pandemic. They weren't able to interact with their peers. They weren't able to go to work. And I know a lot of people, the pandemic hit them in a sense of it impacted their financial well-being. It impacted their professional progression. So a lot of people had to kind of pick up the pieces with very little resources because the pandemic hit everyone out of nowhere. So we didn't really have, for the most part, a lot of the tools to navigate it. We were figuring things out as we went. So as a result, it was kind of inevitable that a lot of people were just like, wow, I don't really know what's next, and I'm kind of fearful. And of course, there's that health factor as well. People were concerned about whether or not they were going to, get that diagnosis. Also, too, I think the pandemic for a lot of individuals, especially those who didn't even know about mental health and its impacts, it was a shock for them because that was the first time they really had to sit still and sit with their thoughts. So a lot of people might have found that their mental well-being declined because that was the first time they were processing a lot of their own traumas and a lot of the negative things that they were experiencing. So even though the pandemic, in a sense, it may have been perceived as a negative because people were sitting still and they weren't necessarily socializing and going out and doing all of these activities. I think it also was a wake-up call for a lot of us to realize while we're working, while we're, hanging out with our loved ones, our friends, and things like that, it's super important that we're allotting time to take care of ourselves and to reflect on maybe some hardships or some challenges that we've endured and really process them and make, I guess, in short, make peace with some of those experiences.
Absolutely. And to be honest, the isolation part was the hard part. I managed to get through it because I started my new career
Yeah.
with the podcasting in March of 2020. And obviously the Zoom and StreamYard and the live streaming is great and stuff like that. But I think I missed people contact. And I honestly think now I appreciate going out more now than I did before after when things are taken away from you.
Very true. Very true. So it also had its bright sides. Once, the mandate was lifted, we were able to appreciate things that we might have been taking for granted previously. So that's a great perspective.
I already asked you about your school. Did you have any mentor or mentors or influencing in your schooling?
Yes. So actually, a shout out. When I was in undergrad, I would say my biggest mentor was Mr. Relaford. Even transitioning into me pursuing higher education, super helpful. I'm really big on maintaining connections, even with a lot of the experiences in the nonprofit sector. So that's what helped me establish my own, I guess, career and me pursuing this mental health path. And a lot of the people that I met through those companies, through those organizations, I still connect with to this day. I still bounce ideas off of them and anything that they need from me as I progress. I'm always to lend a helping hand as well because I'm really big on the reciprocity piece. So I can't necessarily even say it's just one mentor. It was really a community. Oh, I think I lost you, Chris.
Okay, that's on me. I apologize.
It's okay.
Just I'm just gonna have to work through it. It's like TV and radio. Sometimes things happen and just gotta get through it.
Well said. Well said.
A question I wanted to ask you is, what's the difference between a therapist and a shrink? And do you find more people are going to them? Because there used to be a myth, if you went to one, that you were crazy, but to me, that's nonsense.
Yeah. So first and foremost, I guess a quote unquote shrink, a lot of people would reference it as like a psychiatrist. So psychiatrists actually have the doctor component, right? So they're able to prescribe medication. With therapists, we more so focus on the counseling. So you will find yourself in a therapeutic setting, either in an office or online. I know a lot of things have advanced since COVID, where people are doing a lot of their services via the internet, via the computers, their laptops. So what we do is we more so focus on the communication aspect and helping people kind of elicit that change and that growth, while also helping them process some of their traumas and even current challenges and stressors that they may be having. So we definitely focus on like the communication piece, as well, of course, the mental health piece, helping people understand the impacts of mental health. And the psychiatrist or the shrink does the same thing, but they're also able to prescribe medication. Therapists aren't able to do so.
Everybody also these days mentions about talking, which is important, but just tell us about how important listening is.
Wow, love this question, Chris. So for me, of course, I'm a little bit more introverted, right? So naturally, I'm just like, yeah, it's just sit back. You don't really have to say much, and the conversation will flow when you listen to other people's perspective. But honing in on what you shared, it's so easy for us to come to the wrong assumptions when we're always speaking and we're not taking other people's feelings and intentions into context. And also too, there's a world outside of our own world, and how we're going to be able to access those other worlds if we're always domineering certain spaces and conversations without making room for individuals who are just as significant. So I personally believe that listening is just as important as talking. Both definitely serve a purpose, but it's going to be hard for you to really make an impact if people feel like that you're not really able to listen to them.
Absolutely. And this leads to my next question.
Yeah.
When did you develop an interest in psychology and mental health?
Yes, in high school, actually. I ended up taking the course as an elective. And in all transparency, when I went to school, it was just like, I'm trying to find my niche, I'm trying to find my lane, but it's really difficult. And I finally found an elective, and it was psychology, and I loved it. So from that moment on, I knew that I was going to declare my major in psychology once I did go to college. And it kind of happened last minute, which is really hilarious. And I actually don't recommend that people follow suit in this way. But in my case, it just took me a longer time to figure out what my lane would be. And I knew I just didn't want to pursue higher education if I didn't feel called to a particular path just yet. So I took the elective. I ended up really liking the subject, and I stayed to course. I ended up getting my bachelor's in psychology, and even now still pursuing the mental health field.
Wanted to ask you this as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, education is important in the classroom, but outside as well. Never stop learning. Now you're pursuing a master's degree. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So master's degree is a completely different ballgame. It could be a great thing though, because I feel like when you're pursuing your undergrad, you're more so focused on like the general education. So you're taking some other classes. I know I took like a recreation course. You also have the freedom to take some other classes that spark your interest. However, once you pursue your master's, for example, or maybe even your doctoral programs, you start to get into the field and understanding like the theoretical background, different people who were pillars in that particular field. You're getting into even more research. So it's way more intense, but I also feel like it's a great, I'm trying to find a good word for it, Chris. It's a great way for you to get to know yourself as well, because there are going to be so many people that challenge some of the beliefs that you might have had prior to this particular setting. And I know in particular, like the kind of stuff that I was interested in, there's a huge emphasis on critical thinking and pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. So if you're not ready for that, it's definitely going to be a culture shock for you, but I think it's beneficial. And even hearing so many different people's experiences, like some people aren't even from the US, you know, like in hearing how like it was for them as an international student and how that impacts them. So it's definitely, I feel like it's humbling in a sense. It definitely pushes you to think outside of the box.
I know in Canada they've cut back on a lot of mental health programs for people. Have they done that in the States as well?
Well, not necessarily. I would say that the the mental health realm in the U.S. is actually booming more than ever because I feel like we've been tackling a lot of the mental health stigma in the states. So I feel like right now we're actually capitalizing on the importance, not in a negative way, but capitalizing on the importance of mental health and mental health services.
What are some of the biggest stresses that are causing mental health issues?
Yes, I would definitely say employment, whether it be the inability to find employment or a lot of people are not experiencing the best workplace dynamics. So that can impact one's mental health and even people not understanding the importance of interpersonal skills or communication skills. So I would say that also finances, of course, a lot of people are trying to keep their head above water. And when things kind of don't work out the way that they hope that they would, that can impact your mental health. What's super important that people realize is when we talk about mental health, it's not just about trauma and certain things that we experienced in our childhood. A lot of people have found themselves dealing with mental health issues in their adulthood, and that's why they're finding it so hard to navigate these challenges because they've never experienced this before, and it's because they're trying to establish themselves as an adult, and it's way more difficult than they might have expected it to be. So there's this hierarchy called the Maslow's hierarchy, which talks about the importance of our basic needs being met in order for us to actually find fulfillment or to function at our best self. And basic needs consist of things like, do you have shelter? Do you have food? Do you have water? Right? Like, are you safe? Do you feel a sense of safety? So some of the things that we kind of like normalize as, oh, this is just a part of life. These are just hardships that come with it. These are the very things that impact our mental health. And that's why mental health is so important because it's actually in front of us every day.
How much of an impact has social media had on mental health the last 5 years?
Wow. You're bringing the heavy the heavy hitter questions, Chris. I love it. You know what? I feel like social media, when you have your boundaries, it could be a great resource, great way for you to communicate, to collaborate, even to promote like any professional endeavors that you may have. But for individuals whose social media has become, or they try to make social media their safe haven, it has had a negative impact on people's mental well-being, but in particular the youth population. A lot of the youth, and there are studies about this, ironically enough, so I love this. A lot of youth have actually tied their sense of well-being and their identity to social media. And the downside of it is social media is ever changing. So you're talking about someone trying to equate their sense of well-being and their purpose to a platform that's not stable. So inevitably, it's going to lead to unstable mental impacts.
I'm on. Oops, seems like my audience. We're gonna get through this.
Yes.
We're gonna get through this. I was gonna say with social media, it's a good tool,
Yes.
Mariah, but you also need to slow down sometimes. And I know with me, sometimes I get frustrated because I work hard and I do a lot of work on here. But sometimes when you get frustrated or you're kind of not in the right frame of mind, that's when you should, including myself, step back and take a break from it for a bit.
Well said. I definitely agree. And I love the fact that you even have that knowing within yourself, like, you know what, I feel off, I need to take a couple days off, or I need to wait to read this email. So that's a great point too. Like, professional boundaries don't just stop in the office. That's also on social media. Just wait to read that email if you know that you're not okay. Take a break.
One subject I wanted to talk to you about,
Yes.
and I've had this on my show last year, is how much of an impact workplace bullying can have on you too, at work or even at home.
Yes, a huge impact. So, for one, a lot of people are ruminating about the negative experiences that they're having at work once they come home. So, they're on constant eggshells. You can only imagine not just the mental impacts that that may have on someone, but the anxiety. They're constantly on pins and needles. That's going to impact their sleep patterns. They're going to start to have irregular sleep patterns a lot of the time. Appetite, either not eating enough, overeating, not really taking care of themselves. So, as a result, if you're dealing with these negative mental health consequences and now it's starting to impact your physical health, you can only imagine how this is going to impact your relationships, how you show up in relationships. You may become more irritable, you may shut down, you may begin to isolate yourself. But really navigating, or specifically navigating workplace dynamics, what's super interesting is what I found doing research. There are thousands, Chris, thousands of research articles, peer-reviewed journals on navigating envy in professional settings. And what actually stood out to me is a lot of people were publishing articles and dissecting it in a sense of, this is great. Like, you could use envy as a motivation factor. But when I was talking to other people in my immediate environment, and people were crying about the idea of waking up on Monday morning, going to work, because they were so tired of this back and forth of, I'm trying to progress in this company, but it's like I'm dealing with the smear campaign on Tuesday, and then by Thursday, they're scrapping my project that I've been working on for the past 5 months. And the job market is so up in the air right now. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to solidify a whole new position in the next 2 months. Like, it just wasn't, it was a mismatched situation as far as people in the article sharing. Envy is a great source of you just stepping your game up and promoting in a business. But when you're actually getting out into these communities, people are negatively impacted by these workplace dynamics. So that was pretty much how I started to dissect this a little bit more, is looking at that, but going into the community and asking them directly. And workplace dynamics is really interesting because a lot of people are questioning why they're not progressing in a particular organization or company, or just in their career path. They might not necessarily be in an organization or a company. They might be doing things independently, but they're surviving off of partnerships. You have to partner with people in order to get the word out or to solidify, your next endeavor. And some people are erroneously assuming that, oh wow, like, maybe this isn't the path for me. Maybe this isn't the field for me. But there are dynamics where people are operating from that mindset, like I mentioned in those articles, where they're thinking, you know what, if you want to succeed, if you want to solidify that promotion, you have to X out your competition. So if you're the kind of person coming into these spaces with this, I guess, emphasis on collaborating and operating out of integrity, operating out of transparency, you feel like you're in a dog-eat-dog situation. You feel almost as if you're already at a disadvantage. And it's super unfortunate, but that's the reason why I felt called to even start honing in on this kind of work, because a lot of people have come to the conclusion, I don't even have the luxury with the kind of work that I do to just up and leave. I've invested in 401ks, IRAs, investments. I have a family that I have to take care of. So how do I make sure that I'm able to progress in these types of dynamics? And the first thing is becoming aware of the game that's being played against you.
Mariah, I wanted to ask you about this too. As great as social media is, has it really reduced communication? Because I find more and more people now, in-person communication seems to be less and less. I'm old school. I remember the days of phone calls or talking to people in person, but now it just seems like everything is text and email, and it's just a lack of communication. Or what's your thoughts?
Yeah, so for me, and it might just be because of my era, it's kind of been normalized, right? Like, I was there when MySpace boomed, when Facebook boomed, when Twitter became a thing. Now it's X, of course, and then Instagram. So I was there through all of the phases. So for me, it's kind of normal. But, being in a master's program where we're looking at research articles and they're sharing, like, no, we've conducted studies and we're realizing that people aren't really communicating the best, or they're isolating themselves more because they're relying solely on social media or on technology. So it's hard to completely overlook the fact that has its consequences. But I think my main thing is just make sure that you're putting in the work to align yourself with community. because that's the way that you can balance it out. You don't necessarily have to throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? Social media technology has its perks, and it's a great way for us to reach people who aren't in our immediate environment and atmosphere. But when you're relying solely on it, I feel like that's more so a matter of maybe you could, utilize some other resources and tools to make sure that you're not super dependent on social media and technology. And that could simply look like you checking in with your family, your friends, certain peers, just putting yourself out there in the real world.
The word I was going to use is balance.
Balance is a great word.
That leads to my next question, Mariah.
Yes.
How did you come about writing your book, Green Eyes? And what was some of the inspirations behind this book?
Yes. Green Eyes. So what's funny about this book, because it's actually not the first book I ever published. The first thing that came to me was the title, Green Eyes. I remember I was just bonding with my family one day and the thought just came to me. And I was like, Green Eyes, that makes me think green with envy. And I looked up the title. I was like, there's no way someone doesn't already have some kind of content out with this name. And when I looked it up with that concept of like green with envy, I couldn't find anything. So that made me like, you know what, maybe I should write about this a little bit more, especially because talking about envy and, your friendships, your family, your peers, it was something that we would just talk about, especially when you care about someone and you're hearing them say like, oh, well, my friend did this. And you're just like, yeah, watch out for that person. It doesn't sound like they have good intentions for you. So it kind of was second nature for me. I took it lightly. And I had the concept, but I sat on it because I was apprehensive. I wasn't sure how people would perceive it. I was like, I'm not sure if people will glamorize it, like, oh, I love my haters. My haters are my motivators. But I also was like, I'm not sure if some people would feel like, oh, I don't even want to attract that kind of energy into my life. So I wasn't sure, in all honesty, how the book would be received. So I sat on the idea for a minute. And a couple weeks later, all of these stories started to hit social media about people losing their lives at the hands of people who they thought were their friends, but the whole time those people were their enemies. And I was like, okay, you need to take this seriously, because just because you're able to, take some notes or pick up on a few signs, that doesn't necessarily mean that other people are aware of those signs, or they might be overlooking the intensity of these signs. They might just be like, you know what, I could just, love the envy out of this person. Or if I just keep showing them how good I am, then, they'll come around and they'll stop posing such a threat to me. And that was one of the reasons why I also felt called to first differentiate jealousy from envy. Some other influences were also revisiting some of our beloved childhood movies, ironically enough. A lot of those movies and storylines that we loved, whether it be Cinderella, Snow White, whether it be, what were some other ones? The Lion King, the story of Mufasa and Scar. All of these beloved childhood movies were depicting envy, and in particular in our most immediate and intimate circles, our family, our friends. So I was like, wait a minute, this is a phenomenon that's more common than a lot of people might think, but we just keep brushing it under the rug because we're not sitting with what's a good word for it? We're not sitting with the magnitude of it. So I did that, and of course, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, I sat with a couple of research articles too, because I knew a lot of people were probably like, okay, like this is what you're presenting with me, some Disney movies or some cases on social media, even though I do feel like that's significant enough. I also did a lot of research, looked at a lot of articles, and I just accumulated all of that information and I started to write things down.
Couple of things I want to say on this. Always go with your gut feeling about individuals or people, and also always keep your inner circle small.
Well said.
And also too, I think everybody's at some point in everyone's life, we've all had a little bit of envy or jealousy of somebody. What's your advice for someone that might be feeling that way towards somebody?
Yes, great question. So I'm going to start off with differentiating jealousy from envy. I agree with you, Chris, 100%. If not all of us, most of us have experienced jealousy towards another person, whether it be we worked really hard to get a promotion and we saw our colleague get it over us, and that ignited some feelings of jealousy. Or we've been wanting to get in a particular relationship and we saw someone get in a relationship and we're just like, dang, when is it going to be my turn? Or it could be something as minuscule as I really like that outfit, and you know what, I can't have access to that kind of wardrobe yet, so I'm jealous of the way that this person carries themselves or presents themselves. So it's a range of things, and for the most part, a lot of us have had moments of jealousy. However, with envy, it's not just about you wanting something or coveting something that someone else has. Because a lot of the time, a jealous person is able to be around the individual that they're jealous of. It's a fleeting thing. And they're still able to identify other aspects of their life that they're grateful for. They're able to look at themselves and be like, you know what, I don't possess this, but I like this about me, or I can acknowledge the fact that this is going really well in my life. And they're also able to reflect on how other people view them in a high regard, or other things that people have complimented them on. With the envious person, they have become so clouded in their judgment that it doesn't matter if they're doing well. They've convinced themselves that because this person is achieving something, I'm not happy. They've equated their sense of well-being and worth to this other person that they're envious of. So a lot of the time I reference it to, when you think about, just because I have a mental health background, when you think about somebody who has received an obsessive compulsive disorder diagnosis, and there's a cycle, they have these obsessive compulsive thoughts, and then they partake in some kind of repetitious behavior in an attempt to alleviate those obsessive compulsive thoughts that are causing discomfort. So a person who has obsessive compulsive thoughts regarding sicknesses, contamination, they may be the person who has to wash their hands 50 times before they're able to leave the restroom. They're wiping the table down, wiping products down before they're able to really sit down and start their meeting, or start working on their laptop. They might wear gloves. They always have to wear gloves. Or somebody who has obsessive compulsive thoughts regarding safety. This may be the person who has to check and see if their door is locked 80 times before they're able to start their day. So when you think about a person who's having obsessive compulsive thoughts about another person, a lot of the time they're partaking in some kind of sabotage tactics to alleviate these obsessive compulsive thoughts of their target of envy, because they've convinced themselves, I'm only going to feel better if I have a hand in the person that I'm envious of's downfall.
Also, I'm seeing this in this immediate too.
Yeah.
You need to differentiate between friends and acquaintances.
For sure. For sure. And that's a great point, because I think that's the slippery slope where a lot of people find themselves dealing with a lot of these envious sabotage tactics, because they're trying to squeeze acquaintances that need to stay in the acquaintance lane into friendship. And a lot of the people get it confused when you're dealing with an acquaintance who sees you as an opportunity to level up, and almost you being their stepladder, but they don't necessarily like you or respect you. You're bringing this person into your atmosphere, and that's what they need. They need access to you to make sure that they're making sure you stay down here, and that they're slowly but surely moving up off of your back.
Absolutely. That leads to my next question, Mariah.
Yeah.
What was the process like of writing this book? And did you have the book published yourself, or did you have to find a publisher?
Right. So the process of writing this book, I love this. It was actually really difficult for me, because with my other projects, they were just compilations of quotes, and they were meant to be subjective. So in some, just to be straightforward, very easy to write, very easy to publish. And even, with my children's book, you have to be mindful of a child's attention span. So you don't really want to have too much dense content or on a page for a child who's going to read it, because they're going to lose interest and be like, you know what, this is too much. I'm going to go play on my iPad. But I would say the process of this book pulled me, because for one, I had to back up a concept like envy. It wasn't just about quotes. It wasn't just a children's book. People needed some kind of backing. Like, okay, you're talking about envy. Where are you pulling this from? Or you're talking about this research. How are you connecting this to the concept of envy? So it pulled me, and it also made me take my time, versus with the other books that I published, it was easy. Like, it was quick, one and done. So I would say it required more out of me, and even just being more intentional on my own behalf with marketing. That kind of happened on a fluke, but I was like, you know what, if we're talking about envy, dissect this a little bit more so people understand where I'm coming from. I think this was the first book that I published that really pulled certain pieces out of me that I didn't know were lying dormant in me within me, in the first place. As far as publishing the book, so because I've always self-published, just from the very first book that I published years ago, I just decided to self-publish this book because honestly, I didn't know that a lot of people were going to respond to it. Like I said, with my other projects, it was just up in the air. I was just happy to publish it, and if anyone was interested, then they would buy it and I would move on. But with Green Eyes, because it was such a serious topic, I knew I needed to put in a little bit more effort. And I don't know. I think just I went all in. I was super hands-on with this project, so I just decided to publish myself.
How many books have you published so far? And for those watching or listening, what advice would you give to them if they're interested in one day writing a book?
Yes. So I published 4 books. Green Eyes is my 4th book. And advice that I would give to individuals who are interested in publishing a book, make sure that it's a topic that you're passionate about, because people are drawn to authenticity. And, we don't necessarily just want to read something where we could pick up on you regurgitated something else that you read, or something else that, you kind of, okay, let me quickly take some bullet points and then release my own book. No, it's a difference when you really hone in on your craft and you deliver something that's authentic and that means something to you. What's also important, though, when we talk about publishing a book, and this alludes to what I was talking about a little bit earlier, make something where your target is the center point, the main focus. Like I said, with my 3 other books, it was just a matter of, okay, I'm gonna publish it, and if it sticks for certain people, then it sticks for certain people. If not, I'm fine. I just have it out there. With Green Eyes, I set an intention. No, I want this book to be helpful to people. And even the way that it was created, it was me utilizing stories where people were put in these compromising positions because they didn't know how to pick up on the signs, or they didn't know how to move accordingly once they did perceive these signs. So create something where individuals are like, wow, I need this. Not necessarily it's a want for you. You just want to publish it. Create something where it's a need for your target audience.
That leads to my next question.
Yes.
Where can my audience purchase your book online? And how satisfying was it to see the finished product and your book helping others?
Wow. So at this time, my book is available solely on Amazon, but that we'll see how that works in the in the long run. That obviously might change, but at this time, it's available on Amazon. You could purchase either a physical copy or an ebook at this time using Kindle, which is Amazon's platform. And the link is in my bio on TikTok if you follow me. But you could just simply type in Green Eyes by Mariah Perry on, at this point, Google, and the book will pop up. And also in the Amazon search engine, and the book will pop up. And the second part, how satisfying was it to see the finished product and your book helping others? When I tell you, I felt like, wow, I fulfilled my purpose. That's what it felt like. And I've never felt that way with my other books that I've published. And seeing how this book is genuinely helping other people, I feel like you would think that it just makes you feel super like, wow, I did that, but it's humbling. It's humbling hearing certain people come to you and telling you about their stories and about how they had to endure it. It's super humbling, and you know what? It's a great way of bringing people together. It's so powerful, and I never would have imagined that I would have even seen a sense of community come together like this. I even if there are some negative moments, I honestly can't even bask in that. It doesn't even compare to the amount of love and the amount of support that people have been giving to one another, and that's just so out of this world to me. And I'm just so grateful, not only that it's helping other people, but that it's establishing a sense of community.
Any chance of a book signing in the future? And are you working on another book in the next year or two?
Yes. To both parts of that question. I am interested in doing a book signing. I'm just trying to figure out what a good location would be. I have a lot of people in Africa. I have you, of course, in Canada. I've had a lot of people say that they were from like the southern parts of the state. Some people from Florida, some people from Louisiana. So it's just like, okay, I have to narrow down where a good book signing could be. But that's definitely something that I'm looking forward to because, like I said, the community that has come from this book is surreal. And I feel like it would just, it's only right to experience that in person. So I'm trying to figure out the logistics. Like I said, I wasn't expecting the support. So it just kind of hit me like a ton of bricks. So I'm trying to put some things into motion. But yes, there will be a book signing in the future for sure. And also, am I working on another book? Yes, we'll see how long that takes. But I am working on another book. And I definitely feel like Green Eyes was the prerequisite for, I think, a new chapter, so to speak, of some other books that I'm going to be putting out. So I'm looking forward to that.
Any chance you'll do an audio version of it?
Yes, I have been receiving a lot of feedback from people like, yes, you need to make this an audio book. I'm just like, okay, I got you all. So I'm actually doing some fine tuning with the original manuscript before I put it out on an audio book. I'm working with the editor at this time. And before I'm able to put it out as an audio book, I just want to make sure things are on track on paper. And then we'll proceed with the audio book, but that'll also be coming soon.
Okay. I've got a clip from your YouTube channel. You want to tell my audience about your YouTube channel and how they can subscribe?
Yes. Thank you so much, Chris. So on YouTube, I'm actually MsReadTheRoom. Same as TikTok, MsReadTheRoom. And at this point, it's just me uploading a lot of the content from my TikTok onto YouTube so I can reach the YouTube audience. But we'll also see how that goes. Like once I start doing book signings and things like that, that content will be on the TikTok and YouTube page as well. So you can follow me on both platforms.
Okay. I'm going to play one of your clips. Just let me know if you can hear the audio okay.
Sounds good.
People will try to dim your light regardless of how humble you are. There's a word.
Protect your potential. In his video, and it was really good, he talked a little bit about how when people perceive that you are shining a little bit too bright, they will actually try to cut you down to size. And he said that his reference is like the tall poppy syndrome, when they feel like you're kind of rising above everyone else and it's making other people feel insecure or inadequate, uncomfortable. Everyone will team together to cut you down to everyone else's size. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the cut them down to size tactic that's listed in this book. This is where an envious individual mistakes their target's sense of self-esteem and self-confidence as arrogance. In this way, the envious person will strategically take jabs at the target of envy, try to embarrass them and belittle them, and attempt to control their progression in life by sabotaging their efforts. And it's so important to become aware of these strategies and tactics early on and to protect your potential ahead of time, because the best time to eliminate the threat is to do it before they perceive they are one.
Thoughts on your video on that? Okay, I don't know if we lost your audio here. All right, guys, I think we lost Mariah's audio. Can you hear me at all, Mariah? Okay, everyone, I apologize. Just technical difficulties, and hopefully we can get you back on. Mariah, do you want to just try removing yourself and then trying to come back on? Obviously, the audio, and we're going to try to get through this. So just 1 second. Can you hear me now, Mariah? Okay. Okay, try to remove yourself and come back. Everybody, I apologize. It's just an audio issue right now. I'm not sure if it's on my end or Mariah's end. We're gonna try to wrap this up as much as we can. Mariah, I'm just gonna try to remove you and then bring you back. See if that works. Okay, guys, I just removed Mariah. Hopefully, we will get our guest Mariah back, Mariah Perry back. We were talking about psychology and mental health and her book, Green Eyes. And one of the chapters in that book was cutting people down to size, where people kind of put you down to make you feel smaller. So we're going to try to hopefully get Mariah back on here. Just an audio issue. So we'll see. We'll try bringing her back on. And we'll see if we can get. Can you hear me now, Mariah? Okay. Just okay, guys. Just bear with us. It's just technology. Technology can be great at times, but obviously there's an issue. So after the video clip that I showed, I'm not sure, Mariah, if you want to just try to, I'm just gonna have her try signing off and try not signing off and coming back on. So we're gonna try to get her guest back on. Guys, regardless what happens, we're gonna try to get her back on my show again in the future. Tonight, obviously, there's some issues with the audio, and I do apologize. And we're just gonna try to finish this up as best as we can. Um, Mariah, I guess you can't hear me. We're just gonna try. Guys, bear with me. I'm trying to be a technician, IT guy here, and like I said, we'll just try to see if we can fix this, and hopefully we can. It looks like that's good. All right, guys. We're gonna try to get my guest Mariah Perry back. She's the author of Green Eyes, and she's got a bachelor's degree in psychology. I do apologize again, guys. This does happen in TV and radio with audio issues. So hopefully we can get her back, and if not, we will have her back on again in the future because we're having a great chat with her. So 1 second, we're gonna see, fingers crossed, if we can get audio from Mariah Perry. Are you back?
Yes, I'm back.
Okay, I apologize. It's just been one of those shows where, I love technology. We all love technology, but sometimes things do happen with TV and radio and doing both mediums. You just have to do the best you can.
Very true. Very true. It's okay. It's such a great conversation.
Absolutely. The video we showed, can you just explain a little bit about people cutting people down to size?
Absolutely. So this is actually referencing one of the tactics that I talk about in the book, and this is actually prevalent in a lot of professional settings. So if someone realizes that there's a particular attribute that someone possesses and they find it intimidating, or it may instill in them feelings of competitiveness, insecurity, what they will do is they will actually project those insecurities onto their target. And what they'll do is they'll try to cut that person down to size to where they're not even able to utilize that particular attribute because they've been conditioned to believe that it's something that's negative or that it's too much or that it's too abrasive. So it's a great way of getting ahead of your target and kind of instilling a lot of these negative thoughts in them to play on their self-esteem and confidence.
Do you find belittling in our societies even more than it was in the past?
For sure. Well, actually, let me rephrase that. It might not be more than what it was in the past. It's just now that we have social media and the internet, we see it more. So it's more visible, and it's also more common for us to just, okay, well, since I have access to millions of people, let me just share this opinion and share this thought, even if we're not really processing the fact like, wait, this could really hurt someone's feelings. So I feel like in a sense, we're actually desensitized to the impact that a lot of our words can have on other individuals.
Hey, do I have permission to show another video of yours in another minute or two?
Yes, you do.
Okay. And you know what? It seems like the audio is a little bit better.
It is? Okay, well, maybe we should have did this earlier. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Like I said, it happens.
Yeah.
I'm just going to try to share a file and see if we can get this video on here. Because this is another another video that I'd like to play with our audience as well.
Yes.
1 second, I'm just going to click and we'll get it going.
No problem.
One of the first things group of individuals who just wasn't a particular person, and you realize that they often go hot or cold. And this oftentimes leaves the target in a state of confusion where they don't know where they stand with this person. The reason why they're going hot or cold is, for one, they're probably gossiping about you, or two, they're being fake. They don't really like you, they don't really want to be around you, but something about them being in association with you or being in your presence benefits them in some way, or at least they're trying to benefit from you through association. association. And so when you find that, okay, this person complimented me today, but a couple of days later, now they're acting really cold. It's because they weren't able to get what they wanted from you through those compliments or through having access to you. So one of the first, I think, telltale signs of you being around an envious person or like a group of envious people is that hot and cold, which oftentimes leaves the target burnt and confused. The second sign that you may be around an envious individual is constant manipulation. So an envious person has mastered, for the most part, most envious people have mastered the art of manipulation. They know how to manipulate circumstances. They especially know how to manipulate conversations. And what I mean by that is gossip or slander. So you could have an innocent conversation with them about another individual, or you may even check in on that individual through them. Like, hey, I haven't heard from so-and-so. Like, is everything okay? And an envious person is likely to go back to that person and tell them and completely twist what you meant or like your intentions or even your delivery. And they'll be like, yeah, look, so-and-so was asking about you. And I was telling them, you're good to ask about that. And this is designed to ostracize you, isolate you, and to taint your reputation and other people's perception. So envious people are masters of manipulation when it comes to their targets. And the third sign that you're around an envious person or a group of envious individuals is rejection. So envious people will oftentimes project their inadequacies, but sometimes they'll project things that they feel like they're inadequate and that you don't even care about. Like it's not like let's be honest, we're not perfect, we're not going to get everything right. But the envious person will try to make any and everything about you to tear you down, or self-esteem at a certain level, your confidence at a certain level. So they'll pick apart something that you're not even focused on. So in say like a professional aspect of an academic aspect, they may point out something that you aren't even interested in pursuing. Like it's not your lane, it's not your goal in life, but if they realize that it's an area that you probably need fine-tuning to pursue it, they're going to magnify that area of growth required. And another thing aside from inadequacies, an envious person will project their perception of who you want you. They may actively come into the place trying to get as a superiority complex. They view you in a superior light. You may be coming in like, I'm not worried about how people perceive me, or they think that I'm super, bougie or better than like, I'm not worried about that. I'm thinking about what I'm going to for dinner, or where I'm going to stop by after this shift or whatever, I gotta once I get home. Like you could be worried about something different, and just the idea of running this person perceives it as better than you running your business when you aren't bothered by being bothered by you. Or when you don't feel the need to go above and beyond that, and you don't feel the need to go above and beyond to get other people. An envious person will perceive you as you having a superiority complex because they don't have the intentions to be known. So really that projection is the byproduct of frustration. They can't get a hold of you, they can't get access to you emotionally, mentally, psychologically, or spiritually. So what they'll instead try to do is put traits on your mind, your sense of self-worth, self-esteem. Okay. So now that I got those signs out the way, I feel like that's just the tip of the iceberg. And it's not just important for us to understand these signs, but it's also imperative that we understand every person doesn't have the same poison. So there may be one envious individual who's blatant, but they're staying towards you. Another person may be really great at concealing their intentions. So it's important that you understand the signs. It's important that you know the individual's poison and how they're going to attack you with strategies that they use to come against their targets. But caveat all of that, what can we when we find ourselves in a situation? Because the fact of the matter is we don't always have the luxury of realizing that we're not an envious person or individual establishing this. It may be a job, it may be your school environment, or it may be in a more intimate just family. You love all of your other family members. There's one family member who makes life so difficult for you. but you still enjoy going to family gatherings and other people still want you there. How do you preserve yourself? How do you preserve yourself in these strategies attacks? How do you maintain relationships? And how do you sustain your well-being and your progress while these individuals? So I'm going to include a screenshot of a resource here that helps you understand all of those aspects. So not just the size of the business person, not just the different types of individual strategies, but also what you can implement intervention and prevention practices. Okay. So with that being said, feel free to drop your experience in the comments. Tell us, there are certain things that you experienced around this individual or individuals. Also feel free to share, what you all would like to talk about next.
Okay, Mariah. Still hear me?
Yes, I can.
Thoughts on that? And to me, we've all dealt with this at some point. What's the best way to deal with someone that's an envious individual? It can be a family member, friend, coworker, etc.
Yes. So first things first is my biggest piece of advice. Don't take it lightly. When you pick up on certain signs, it is what it is. You don't have to talk yourself out of it. And a lot of the time, a lot of people will give you pushback. They will try to convince you, well, you're thinking too much into it. And that's where you're going to start to prolong a lot of these attacks and these sabotage tactics. So the first thing is call a thing. Another thing, as far as specific strategies, like I mentioned in that video, every envious person has a different pick of poison, meaning that their delivery is different. A lot of the time, this is the result of just them evolving, the evolution of their tactics and strategies. They've realized that being more abrasive isn't going to get you the same results as you being a little bit more calculated and conniving. So being aware of the different strategies and tactics and, being willing to adapt accordingly. A lot of the strategies are listed in the book. It definitely depends on the person's situation and who they're coming up against. But I also want to highlight the fact that the book also has a chapter dedicated to people who may be finding these feelings brewing within themselves and to, challenge their own thought patterns and their own intentions into perceiving that just because someone is coming on the scene who may elicit some of those feelings within you, that doesn't necessarily mean that you've lost your sense of purpose or self-worth. So the book covers a range of things, different strategies that you can use depending on your situation, as well as individuals who may be feeling like they are battling with these feelings within themselves.
My thoughts here is the best way to deal with this is to remove yourself from that person. If it makes you feel that bad, just to remove yourself completely.
If you can. And that's one of the reasons why I wrote the book, because a lot of people may find it difficult to establish distance immediately, or they've come to the conclusion that, am I really willing to give up my job? I have a whole investment here, and I don't think that I can land another opportunity like this one. So becoming aware of these strategies and more so operating from let me protect and preserve myself. I had someone ask me a question about okay, well, how do I fight this person back? And in the book, it actually talks about the importance of changing your mindset. If you try to match their energy, you're going to deplete all of your own resources and energy and even your valuable attention that could be invested in other areas. So it's a matter of you understanding the fact that, okay, the goal isn't necessarily to come up against this person or to meet them at their level. It's figuring out ways that I can preserve myself in spite of these attacks, because the attacks aren't always avoidable. But if you can, you're absolutely right, Chris, if you can establish distance, and if you feel like you're in a situation where you're outnumbered, then absolutely creating distance, especially if you feel outnumbered in a professional setting, places where people have intimate access to you, or it can hinder your progression or your promotion. Yes, sometimes you do have to just take your investments and your resources where it's actually going to be appreciated and valued, free of abuse.
You can see this in marriages or relationships too.
For sure. There's a section in the book that talks about erotic and romantic envy, and also in particular a section that talks about competition guised as courtship, where there's this whole phenomenon. Yeah, and thank you for bringing this up, Chris. There's this whole phenomenon where a lot of people, they get so enamored and consumed with the romance in the beginning that they overlook a lot of these signs. These signs go under the radar, or some people are just convinced there's no way I would deal with this with a romantic partner or my lover. But a lot of the time, that's where people get the most intimate access is in a romantic relationship. So it's not just limited to a professional setting. It's not just limited to a family setting or a colleague, a peer. It can absolutely be a romantic situation.
How much do I'm going to reword this question?
Yeah,
Thoughts on gut feelings. People should listen to their gut feelings more often because I think sometimes you do hear it, but you don't react on it. You just kind of like brush it off.
I agree. I feel like, for one, we got to start off with, do you find yourself being a little bit more pessimistic, right? Because that may be a different situation. Everything doesn't always have to be like, let me be super conscientious and, I guess fearful of everything. But I feel like a lot of the time that our gut feeling is a great thing to go off of because it's a signal. We're able to reflect on situations that were pleasant to us. Like, wait a minute, when I walked into this old space, the people were pleasant, or we collaborated with one another. It wasn't competing and backbiting. So once you step into an environment that starts to cause you to have some kind of reaction, a negative reaction, or you feel tense, you feel like you're constantly on eggshells, yes, that's a sign for a reason. Your body is telling you something about this isn't off. We're not used to this kind of culture. So I do believe in my feelings.
One thing, Mariah, I'm working on is I was in a negative environment for many years, and now that I've cleared, I'm in a positive environment, but I still tend to not get used to positive comments. So it does take effects on you over time if you're in a negative environment too long.
Absolutely. Agreed 100%, Chris. Actually, this is a part of the process. So when you have been exposed to people who have constantly invalidated you and convinced you that you're not good enough or you're not performing well or you're worthless, you literally have to go through a process where you have to deprogram from a lot of the things you've been conditioned to believe about yourself. So yeah, sometimes you do kind of put a guard up even from those positive experiences because you're trying to protect yourself, even if those new experiences are positive. So it definitely leaves an immense impact on you. And I love the fact that you were transparent about that because that is a part of the healing journey.
It's not been easy, but I'm working on it.
Yeah, and I see it, Chris. I see it. I definitely see it.
Leads to my next question.
Yes.
Mariah, can you tell us about your coaching services and what's the best way somebody can contact you online if they're interested in your services that you provide as a coach?
Yes, of course, of course. So my coaching services, I provide personalized coaching for people who are dealing with envy in their personal life because I understand that the book just gives you a general guideline, and a lot of people may feel more comfortable talking to me personally in a coaching session and telling me in detail everything that they're going through, and they want a personalized plan. So I do provide that. You can either book a text service, a phone service, or a Zoom service, and you can send all inquiries as well as business inquiries too to MsReadTheRoom@gmail.com, and that's MsReadTheRoom at the bottom of the screen. Thank you, Chris.
Website you have right now, or are you working on one?
No, I have a website, but it's pending. It's more so for like reviews for people who book my coaching services. But at this time, just my email is the best place to contact me.
Okay, and next question. What advice, Mariah, would you give to those who are in the workplace in terms of dealing with their coworkers in 2024?
Yes. So for one, I would have prefaced it with this, even though I have a particular niche, there is a possibility of you aligning yourself in a professional environment where you have a great experience with your coworkers. I've experienced it in my past, and I'm also experiencing it now, thankfully, where it's just a good community, great culture, and everyone genuinely looks out for one another. So this isn't the end all be all. It's not always something that you just can't avoid, right? But when you find yourself dealing with it and you've come to the conclusion, like, you know what, I don't have the luxury of leaving right now, or it's difficult for me, the best thing that you can do is establish boundaries, not just with them, but within yourself. So knowing when to detach, emotionally detach, knowing when to, I guess, set a tone that, okay, this is my work and this is your work. Because a lot of the time people will try to write off your work as their own to make sure that they promote and that you stay at a particular level. So when you're dealing with conniving coworkers or envious coworkers in a professional setting, what's super important is boundaries, but also what's really important is community, having these kinds of conversations establishing a safe haven for yourself. So, you know, for one, you're not going crazy, you're not tripping. There are people who have experienced this and it's a real thing. And also, two, you need people to help you understand that that's not normal and there's a life outside of that environment. Of course, I'm gonna promote my book and encourage people to read it, but for the sake of your well-being as well, please expose yourself to positive experiences for the sake of your mental, physical, emotional well-being. So figure out what your safe haven is, even if you have to get creative. I tell people all the time, sometimes you may find your community online by sharing, you know, stories with one another, and the fulfillment and the gratification that even comes through that. People telling you like, oh my gosh, I went through the exact same thing in a comment section. Expose yourself to those positive experiences.
That's why, Mariah, I love doing this show, because every show I do, I learn something new from my guests and the storytelling aspects. And sometimes we all think we're by ourselves, but we're not.
Right. Absolutely. Well said, Chris. Absolutely. We're not. And that's why these platforms like this is so important and it's so essential in our society.
I find in the workplace, and I've been guilty of this in the past,
Yeah.
the word trust is just given out like candy.
It is. Whoa, it is. I totally agree. But a lot of the time, your trust is weaponized against you, especially if people have ill intentions for you. They'll push that agenda of, well, you need to trust more. And then boom, that's where everything hits the fan. So protect yourself and understand that your trust is your biggest asset. So don't just be free with it. Like you said, there's a difference between acquaintances and real friends. And friends get trust.
And just like on social media, with friends or followers, doesn't necessarily make them your friend.
That's true. Absolutely. That's super important. And yes, this is also big on social media too.
And if you have something that you don't want to get out, keep it off social media.
Great point.
All right, before we wrap this up, just got a couple more questions for you, Mariah. What are some fun facts about Mariah Perry that people might not know about you?
Wow, that people might not know? I feel like I always say this though. I'm a huge foodie. Like I love to cook. I love trying new restaurants. My favorite color is actually pink, even though I'm greened out and I have a whole type of green eyes. I kind of stepped into the green lane. Sorry for all the green lovers, but I'm falling in love with the color as the days go by. But my favorite color is actually pink. Some other things that people might not know. I mean, I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but for people who didn't know before, I'm just going to reiterate it. I am from NorCal. I'm from Sacramento, California, born and raised. What are some other fun facts about me? I feel like I'm not that eventful, Chris. I've never left the country. So that's on my to-do list. Yes, that's on my to-do list. And soon, like I need to travel more. I've never left the country.
Okay, if you had a choice right now for one city you could visit for a week, what would it be? Where would you go?
Oh, Chris.
One city.
I would say New York. I talked about this a little bit. New York, and I would want to go in the winter time.
And what would you want to see in New York when you got there?
I would want to see Madison Square Garden. I will also want to go, I'm not sure if this is in the same area, like I need to do more research, but Times Square. And also too, like the big, is it billboards kind of a thing? Where is that at? Is that Times Square? I would have to go to Times Square and experience that in the winter, layer down, the big puff coats. I have to, the snow and everything.
Afraid of heights or not?
You know what? I am afraid of heights, but ironically enough, I'm not scared of flying. I'm not. Like if obviously I would need to. Well, I don't need to. I could drive or take a bus or something, but I would prefer to fly to a city like New York. I don't mind flying, but I am afraid of heights, like bungee jumping and all of that, or skydiving. Please, absolutely.
Favorite flight city you've been to so far?
Favorite city I've been to so far. Let me see. Ironically enough, these are great questions, Chris. I don't want to mess up. I want to pick the right city. even though I'm a Cali girl, I can't say a city in Cali, and that's because I'm used to Cali. I might say Atlanta, Georgia. Really good food, and I went in the summertime too, so it was cool weather.
Since you're a foodie, what are some of your favorite foods that you enjoy?
Pasta. I love pasta. And ironically enough, even though we don't consider it a pasta, but we use pasta noodles for it, baked mac and cheese. This is considered like a soul food dish. It's a comfort food for me. I love it. And I'll make myself a whole pan if I want to, just if I feel like I need it. I'm really big on I'm simple. Pizza, some other dishes though that I really like. Steak is really good. I love seafood dishes. Seafood's really great. I also want to try like Louisiana food, like New Orleans food, the beignets and things like that. I haven't gotten into that, so I've had gumbo and stuff before, but I haven't really had the full experience. But my main thing, I'm just gonna keep it simple, is pasta. Any kind of pasta, I'm just like I could get with.
Favorite dessert.
Oh my goodness! You know what's so crazy, Chris? Is I'm not a sweets person, so I'm simple. I'll just be like, I'm good with the pizookie and ice cream. I feel like I need to get into desserts more. Like people are just like, there's dulce de leche, there's what else? Creme brulee, like all the fancy stuff. I'm just like, I haven't even expanded my dessert palette to know. I'm just like, I love a good ice cream.
Ice cream, what's your favorite flavor?
Oh, butter pecan.
Mine's Moose Track.
It's what?
Moose Tracks with caramel, Reese's peanut butter cups in it, and vanilla ice cream.
Oh my goodness. What, does it come in the store like that?
Moose Tracks, yes.
Are you sure? I haven't seen Moose Tracks ice cream in Cali.
Okay, I'll send you a link to it.
Okay, send me a link.
Now I'm getting hungry.
Because I love caramel. Me too.
Beer or wine if you had a choice?
Wine.
White or red?
Ooh. Red is really good, but I'm gonna say white.
Good choice. And finally, favorite music. And do you have any music ability?
I mean, I did band when I was in high school, but I can't really say I mastered it, so I'm gonna leave it alone at the music ability thing. But favorite type of music, I really love R&B. I really love hip hop. I feel like hip hop is storytelling through and through. Let me think. I also love neo soul. I love that genre. Those are like my main three.
Last concert you've been to?
Oh my goodness. What's the last concert that I went to? Was it a festival? It might have been Soul Bloom. In Sacramento, we do these festivals where all of these music artists come to SAC. And I think we saw, who did we see there? I think we saw Tinashe perform. Who were some other people who came that year? Was Kehlani there that year? There were a lot of people who came. I think that was the last concert I went to, and that was years ago.
For those that have never been to California, what would you tell them why they should come out there?
Wow. Great weather for the most part, and it's a melting pot. So many people from so many different backgrounds come to California for the most part, especially in like what I call the hotspot cities. So like Los Angeles, San Diego, a lot of SoCal, and also a lot of Bay Area. Huge melting pot in the Bay Area. San Francisco, Oakland, another good one, Hayward. So it's a great way for you to, I guess, enjoy good weather, but also just to become well-versed. There are so many people from so many different places that you can learn from.
The one thing is, what is it like to experience earthquakes? We do have them occasionally here in Canada, but not as frequently as on the West Coast. How do you get used to that?
Well, you know what? In Sacramento, we didn't have earthquakes. So it wasn't until I moved to SoCal that I was like, oh my gosh, why is my apartment shaking? What's happening? And I was like, oh, this is what an earthquake feels like. So I will say this though, my time here, it hasn't been a lot of earthquakes, thankfully, but in the Bay, earthquakes are prevalent. I know a lot of people think that Sacramento and the Bay are the same, and it's not. Sacramento is just really close to the Bay, but we consider Sacramento NorCal. The Bay Area has a few earthquakes here and there. Also SoCal, Los Angeles, really big for earthquakes too, or Los Angeles County, really big for earthquakes. I don't know. I can't really give too much advice on it just yet because I feel like I've been fortunate enough to where I haven't really experienced the big earthquakes.
A couple months ago, I had a couple guests on from LA,
Yeah.
Nino Sciamino and Chris Spinelli, live on here. And as they were talking, they experienced an earthquake right on my live show.
Really? Was it intense?
It was about 4.6, they were saying.
Really?
Yeah, it only lasted for maybe 30 seconds.
Got it. Okay. I was like, you mean like the big deal ones? Okay. 30 seconds. Well, maybe you might have a point. There might be earthquakes that are more common, but I might be asleep during the time that they happen.
And you know what? We got through this show with even the audio issues as well.
Yes. Shout out to you, Chris. Because I definitely did not.
If you do decide to come back on my show again, we'll make sure the audio is 100% next time.
Yes, for sure. I would love to come back. What? Love this.
Where can my audience, again, follow you on social media?
Yes, you all can follow me at MsReadTheRoom, MsReadTheRoom on TikTok and YouTube. You can follow me on TikTok. You can subscribe to my YouTube. Same username. Also, the same username for my email too, if you want to either reach out for coaching services or send any business inquiries. MsReadTheRoom@gmail.com.
And again, we can promote your YouTube channel, MsReadTheRoom on YouTube, right?
Yes, correct.
And thoughts on how much work how much work does it take to get a YouTube channel going?
Wow. It's a lot of work. So for people who build their, their audience, their following on YouTube, and I would even say Instagram too. I feel like it might have been easier a few years ago to build a following on Instagram, but right now the climate, building a following on Instagram and YouTube is no joke. So props to you all. It's a different ball game. That's why I stay in my lane. But I want to reach the YouTube audience as well.
And TikTok's been a great tool as well.
It has, but YouTube is no joke. Establishing a following on here.
I'll be honest, before we wrap this up, 3.5 years ago, my friend suggested I get on there for my media work, and I had the miss. It's only for teenage kids. I'm too old for it, but you know what? I learned how to cut promos for myself and my radio show, and it's just been an awesome tool. And I've had a number of guests on my show from TikTok, and it's like anything else. If you use something the right way, it can be a good tool.
Exactly.
All right. Before we let this go, do you have a question to put me on the spot? Put the host on the spot question segment.
I love this. You know what? What's your favorite thing about being a talk show host, Chris?
Just love connecting with people, meeting people, and hearing their stories and learning from them, and just the storytelling aspect, I guess.
Yeah. Beautiful. Oh my
And
God, that's amazing.
Absolutely, and I love to talk too, and listening is huge too. I've learned to improve my listening skills as well.
Hey, I'm still working on it too. Even as someone in the mental health field, I feel like it's always an opportunity to grow and learn.
If you can give me a little bit of time tonight, I will send you a video, audio copy of the show, and I'll do some clips as well. But again, I apologize for the audio issues with the feedback.
It's completely fine. Things happen. Now, look, I'm not tech savvy, so I'm used to this.
I'm still learning, and that's what I love about this industry, is because there's something new to learn all the time.
Very true. Well said.
All right. Well, Mariah Perry, thank you so much for coming on. And I would like to get a copy of your book, Green Eyes, again. And where can people get it?
I got you. Everyone can get it. It's available on Amazon at this time. Just type in Green Eyes by Mariah Perry in the Amazon search engine and it will pop up.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Mariah, for coming in. And we'll have you back on our show and again in the future without the audio background.
Absolutely, Chris. Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure speaking with you always. And I look forward to being back on here for sure.
Deal. Done.
Deal.
Okay. We'll talk to you soon. And thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Thank you for having me, Chris. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon. All right, guys, that was episode 8, or sorry, season 8, episode 16. Again, I want to apologize for the audio issues. I'm going to look into them for my next show as well. So, again, thank you to my guest, Mariah Perry, the author of Green Eyes, for coming on here tonight. And I want to say thank you to everyone watching this live stream in audio. And I will make sure for my next show, the audio is much better. And that happens in TV and radio as well. Guys, you can contact my guest, Mariah, at MsReadTheRoom@gmail.com. MsReadTheRoom@gmail.com if you're interested in her coaching services, as well as possibly maybe purchasing her book, Green Eyes, which is available on Amazon.com. And I believe it should be on Amazon.ca as well. Before we wrap up our show, guys, the next live is CDP Sports Talk, sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet dealership here in Guelph. Tuesday, June 4th, that's tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern, with my special guest, Rachel Lipsky. She's a Nashville recording artist and just released her latest single, Wonky Tonk. Rachel has been on my show before in February, and she's excited to come back tomorrow at 2 o'clock Eastern, 1 Central, to talk about her latest single, Wonky Tonk. And if you tune into her show live stream, you'll be able to hear her latest song as well. And Rachel's a friend of mine and does a great job as a Nashville recording artist. And we're going to just talk about this latest single and if she's working on some more singles and albums in the future as well. So please tune in to Live with CDP Sports Talk tomorrow, June 4th. Tuesday, June 4th at 2 p.m. with Rachel Lipsky. And we're going to talk about her latest single again, Wonky Tonk. As you know, guys, I volunteer at the Cambridge District Humane Society at 1650 Dunbar Road in Cambridge, Ontario, 519-623-7722, or visit their website at cambridgehumanesociety.org. If you're looking to adopt your forever friend, a cat, dog, bunny, rabbit, or whatever, check out the Cambridge District Humane Society again at 1650 Dunbar Road in Cambridge, and visit their website at cambridgehumanesociety.org, and you can check out all their animal profiles up for adoption on there as well. And they're also doing a 50-50 monthly draw there. So their next draw will be at the end of June. Get your tickets at cambridgehumanesociety.org or go down to the shelter as well. I have it on the graphics as well. And if you're looking to volunteer, the best way to contact them to volunteer, 519-623-7722. Again, the website is cambridgehumanesociety.org if you're interested in walking dogs or helping them out there at the shelter as well. Live with CDP Sports Talk, again, is a weekly sports and entertainment talk show hosted by Chris Palme, is now on weeknights at 8 p.m. Eastern on WQEE 99.1 FM, the home of Southern sports and talk, the heartbeat of Atlanta. Our radio station's website is WQEEFM.radio12345.com. Live with CDP Sports Talk is live streamed on these platforms: YouTube, Facebook, Twitter /X, Twitch, LinkedIn, and now available on Instagram. Follow me there at Chris Palme, and you can watch Live with CDP there as well. And also, guys, I'm on Cameo.com. If you're looking for a personalized video from yours truly, type in Cameo.com and then type in Chris Palme, and I'd be glad to do a personalized video message for you in the future as well. You can check out my website at beacons.ai/Chris D. Palme. All my digital media work is on there, and previous radio shows that are on beacons.ai/Chris D. Palme. Live with CDP Sports Talk, again, is sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out barrycullen.com for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, or give them a call at 519-824-0210, or email them at info@barrycullen.com. Speaking of Barry Cullen Chevrolet right now, the first ever all-electric Equinox EV is available at Barry Cullen Chevrolet, up to 513-kilometer range, 0.96 kilometers in 5.9 seconds, and an 8-year, 160,000-kilometer warranty. More details on the first ever electric Equinox EV at barrycullen.com. Check it out. And Barry Cullen Chevrolet is the #1 electric dealer in Ontario for GM vehicles as well. Also, guys, you can follow me on TikTok at Live with CDP. How I met Mariah Perry, it was through TikTok. So make sure you follow me there at Live with CDP on TikTok. And I want to say thank you to my 2,200 followers on TikTok. StreamYard is the official live stream provider of Live with CDP Sports Talk. If you're into webinars or podcasting, check out StreamYard.com. They have basic free plans, or they have professional plans that I have for $49 US a month. Or if you're a business that does a lot of webinars, podcasting, live streaming, broadcasting, check out StreamYard.com and contact their sales department. And I've been with StreamYard for 3.5 years, and I'm quite happy with their service. And I think they're one of the best for live streaming services out there. Live with CDP Sports Talk, the audio version is available on iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts for now, eventually YouTube Music, Spotify for podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Casts, Spotify, Castbox, LinkedIn, Pandora, and now available on TuneIn and YouTube Music. So make sure, guys, if you're on YouTube Music, hit the subscribe notification to Live with CDP Sports Talk. As with, I think, June 23rd, Google Podcasts will no longer exist. So I have moved my account from Google Podcasts to YouTube Music. Finally, you guys can email or text Live with CDP Sports Talk at cpame19@gmail.com, or you can text the show at 519-820-7188. Any comments, questions, suggestions, feedback would be greatly appreciated for Live with CDP Sports Talk. And again, I want to say thank you to my guest tonight, Mariah Perry, the author of Green Eyes, for coming on here tonight to talk a little bit about her book and the importance of good mental health. And again, next Live with CDP Sports Talk, sponsored by barrycullen.com, Tuesday, June 4th. That's tomorrow, folks. 2 p.m. Eastern with Rachel Lipsky, and she's going to talk about her latest single, Wonky Tonk. And I'm excited to have her on and listen to her latest single that was released on May 31st. By the way, guys, NHL, we've got Edmonton and in Florida in the Stanley Cup. Game 1, June 8th. The Oilers are looking for their 6th Stanley Cup in franchise history, their first since 1990. And the Florida Panthers are in there now. I think this is their 2nd consecutive Stanley Cup finals, 3rd cup in overall. Florida's looking for their 1st Stanley Cup ever, and we'll see what happens between Edmonton and Florida. First game, the first 2 games of the series will be in Florida, so Florida has home ice in the series. I've got the Oilers winning this series in 7 games over the Florida Panthers. I think it's going to be a great series between the Edmonton Oilers and the Florida Panthers. And before we get to the basketball, I want to say congratulations to the 2024 CHL, Canadian Hockey League Memorial Cup champion, Saginaw Spirit, for winning the Memorial Cup last night, 4-3 over the very talented London Knights. The winning goal was scored by Bloom, I think, with 21.7 seconds left. And Saginaw is the first U.S. junior team to win the Memorial Cup since the Spokane Chiefs won in 2008. So again, congratulations to the Saginaw Spirits on winning the Memorial Cups, and congratulations to the London Knights on a terrific year and another Memorial Cup appearance by Dale Hunter and those London Knights. And finally, guys, the NBA Finals doesn't start until Thursday, June 6th. It's going to be the Dallas Mavericks, who are looking for their 2nd ever NBA championship after winning one in 2011, and the Boston Celtics, trying for their 18th championship to surpass the Lakers for the most in NBA history. Dallas-Boston Game 1 in TD Garden Center in Boston for Game 1 and 2. I'm going to go with the Celtics in 6 games. I feel the Celtics are a better team than the Mavs, and I think they'll win in 6 games. But I think Dallas is going to win a couple of games and make this a very competitive series as well. That's about it, folks. And before we wrap this up, Toronto Argonauts home opener, Sunday, June 9th, 7 o'clock kickoff at BMO Field. You can get tickets at argonauts.ca or watch the game on TSN or listen to the game on TSN 1050 with Mike Hogan, Ben Grant. I will be at the game. I'm not sure if it'll be media or the fan, but Argonauts BC Lions open up this Sunday in Toronto, and the CFL opens up the regular season this Thursday night as well. There's games Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday, Sunday. So if you're a big Canadian football fan, tune into the CFL this week and to TSN for their coverage as well. That's about it. Again, thank you to my guest, Mariah Perry, for coming on here today. And I want to say thank you to everyone watching this live stream and on audio. And again, I apologize for some of the audio issues this evening. I'm going to do my best to have them worked out for tomorrow's show, again, with Rachel Lipsky at 2 p.m. Eastern here on Live with CDP Sports Talk. I hope everybody has a great night, and we'll see you back here tomorrow at 2 o'clock with Nashville recording artist Rachel Lipsky. Thank you again for watching and listening to Live with CDP Sports Talk on WQEE 99.1 FM.